Any second now they will match our acceleration. After that they will gain on us and they will do so fast. Tell me you have viable jump calculation by then. I am about ready, answered Zrripa. The Corvette has now matched our acceleration. The distance between them and us is no longer growing. On the optical sensors, the Corvette has shrunk into a small greenish speck. Every now and then, Zoopik could see the muzzle flashes of their cannons as small, flickering lights. Then something unusual happened. A smaller speck drifted away from the Corvette. For a moment, Zoopik was unsure as to what it was. However, the moment the smaller speck turned into a bright light, Saarte yelled a torpedo warning, and Zoopik stopped breathing for a moment. Jump calculations finished. Jump drive is spooling up. High warp in 5. The torpedo raced through empty space on a massive drive plume. Every second, it gained on the yacht, and its velocity increased so much faster than a manned spaceship ever could muster. It was programmed to impact the yacht drive unit. The impact alone would most likely render the main drive inoperable, and so the torpedo had no active warhead. As it calculated its trajectory for the impact, it realized that the fleeing yacht had no countermeasures or close-in weapons systems to defend against itself, and it corrected its trajectory for that information. It was now closing in even faster. Another second, and it would connect to its target. Suddenly, the sensors of the torpedo registered a growing gravitational anomaly. The anomaly grew faster than its computer could compensate, and just half a second before it would have impacted the fleeing yacht, the torpedo lost track of its target, before its sensors were blinded by a warp flash. That was way to close, whispered Zoopik. We are now in interstellar space. In 3 hours we will reach the gravitational well of our target star. From there we will have to perform another interplanetary jump, and then we can rendezvous with our target. And sorry that it took me so long. I was prepared for a moving start, not for all that evasive stuff. Again I'm sorry, said Zrripa. Well, we are still alive, and we are still on the move. I'll say that you learned something today, and we leave it at that, Zoopik said. Zrripa clicked her beak a couple of times with a said tone added to show she appreciated her older brother's words, and was still sorry for her almost blunder. Yo, Skipper. We need to shed a lot of waste heat when we reach our destination. If we cannot shed all that heat, we will have to scuttle the yacht at our target no matter the consequences. But the reactor was running okay, you said? The heat system was running okay, I said. The reactor is already running hot. What I didn't notice was that the main drive's cooling system is also busted. It has dumped a lot more waste heat into heat storage than expected, and we will have to shed at least half of the accumulated waste heat, or our storage will back up. After that, the drives will overheat, and the reactor will become uncontrollable. We should have installed those extra passive radiators. They would have allowed us to shed heat even while operating, Zaki said, before Zoopik interrupted her. Yes. I got you the last 30 times. We didn't have the time, nor the means. I was just stop already. We figure this out, okay? With a sudden flash, the yacht fell out of warp, high above their target system's star. As soon as possible, the yacht's heat radiators extended and began to shed waste heat. They began to glow in a dark red, which slowly became brighter. I am calling our contact and organize our rendezvous, Zoopik said. We are receiving a comms request on tight beam, said Zaki. That's not good. Any transponder? No, it's fully dark. Maybe one of our contacts acknowledged the request. Sound only, here goes. Zoopik, if that is you, you have to hurry and dock with the station as soon as possible. NetSec has sent a message with a human courier ship, so it would arrive here before you could. They noticed your ship had problems with heat shedding, and are expecting you to take your sweet time shedding heat once you arrive in system. They are about to lock down the station within the hour, and after that, NetSec ships from the other habitats in the system are expected to arrive. You have to be here before then. I have a ship on standby that can pick you up if you have to bail from your ship, but you have to get here now. Nobody said a word. Human ships could travel so much faster in and out of warp. This was bad. Calculate the jump. We shed heat until we jump and bail as soon as we arrive, Zoopik said matter-of-factly. The radiators will be sheared clean off if we jump while they are extended, added Zrripa. Yeah, but as you said, we have to leave the ship anyways. It doesn't matter anymore if the radiators are attached to the ship or not, if the reactor will cook off anyway. That is true. I am calculating the jump. I try to put us on an exit trajectory that will send the ship back into deep space while we bail deeper in the gravity well. Sounds good. Damn. A military-grade vessel could just jettison an expandable heat sink to buy its own system some more time. But civilians aren't allowed tech like that, mumbled Zaki. No. Upgrades like that are available for civilians too. They just cost an arm and a leg on top of the costs for a yacht like this. Calculations are done. I am maneuvering us into our starting position. The jump will take 5 minutes. In that time, we will most likely loose the main drive, and once we fall from warp, we will loose the warp drive to overheating. I have set us on a fly-by course of the station, at least if its location data is correct. We should bail as soon as we fall from warp, and we need to hope that this standby ship is able to catch us. The relative velocity we will be arriving with is scaring me a little. We will have to be quick then. You all go to the pod. I will initiate the jump, and I'll follow you then to the pod. That is my job, Zrripa protested. We agreed that I am the captain, so I have to take responsibility for a maneuver like this. Now go, we are running out of time. Zrripa wanted to protest again, but Saarte was already at her side and dragged her out of the small command center. Zaki was next to leave. I have dumped some of the coolant from heat storage and replaced it from the tanks. It won't be enough, but it will buy us some time before the reactor cooks off. Good thinking. Now go. Message me when you are in the pod. Zrripa clicked his beak and left the command center. Shortly later, Zoopik received the message that the rest of his crew had reached the pod and was seated. He took a deep breath and let the air escape his lungs again before he committed to the jump. He could hear the ship's structure protest to forces the jump drive was exerting on it again, but that was within normal limits. He knew these sounds by now. What caught him off guard was the building vibration of the ship's structure. Well, we knew we would damage the ship, but I was hoping it wouldn't be this bad, he said out loud, as the ship began to shake more and more violently. As the jump drive came to live, the normal vibrations it imparted into the ship's structure reached the still extended radiators and caused them to vibrate as well. One of them wasn't structurally sound anymore, and the imparting vibrations caused the extended radiator to shake more and more. Once the radiator was vibrating in its own frequency, the ship's structure had to endure an even greater load, and parts of the structure began to violently shake in place. Zoopik couldn't even stand on his feet under these conditions, and was forced to keep seated. As the drive initiated the warp bubble sheared all extended radiators clean off, but the shaking did not just stop violently. The connections snapped violently, sending more intense vibrations into the aching ship's frame. Structural elements broke, deck spaces bent, and the entire frame was bending into a new shape. Zoopik found himself first on the floor, and then in free fall after everything had died down. The ship had managed to reach high warp, but all screens yelled angry red warnings at him. Emergency power restored the gravity effect system, and he fell in an odd angle to the floor, as some of the fuel wires overhead had been bent out of shape. He scrambled to his feet and left the command center. Constantly shifting gravity made it hard to maneuver the damaged interior spaces, and it took him nearly 4 minutes to reach the pod. As he finally reached the pod door, his siblings and Saarte looked in shock as the automatic doors closed by themselves. The ship has decided to eject the pod. The damage to the reactor is too great. It is already hyper-crit, said Zrripa on the interior comms, until he was cut off by the pod being forcefully ejected from the ship, just seons after the warp bubble had collapsed. The human courier ship was still docked to the station as the yacht fell from warp. The off-white ovoid undocked just a couple seconds later and began to gently maneuver away from the station. The yacht had at this point raced through a significant portion of space, closing in on the station rapidly. Its course would bring the yacht close to the station, before it would quickly rise out of the gravity well again, probably trying to perform another warp jump. The courier extended its own drive assembly, 2 long feather-like stalks, and began to slowly accelerate. The yacht passed overhead with barely 200 meters between itself and the station, before its trajectory appeared to curve back up again. Now the courier began to accelerate hard and surged forwards from its slow drift. Within minutes, it had not only matched the velocity of the yacht, but outpaced it, and was now rapidly gaining on the fleeing ship. Zoopik had managed to drag himself back into the command center, and was watching the human ship closing in at an unprecedented pace. He had never seen a ship accelerate that fast from relative standstill. Attention, Sasaki space yacht, stop your maneuver and fall into a parking orbit over the planet. You are ordered to comply by network security regulations. An interceptor has been dispatched to stop you from warping again. Do not attempt to flee. Zoopik did not care for NetSec's orders anymore. He wanted to make sure his siblings could slip away unnoticed. Attention, Sasaki Zoopik. The interceptor has been ordered to shoot you to stop you from escaping. Comply with our orders now, and no harm will come to you. Zoopik took a quick glance at one of the screens that flashed several warnings about the reactor being on the brink of bursting. Well, so much for no harm, he muttered to himself. He leaned back, closed his eyes and tried to find peace with his situation. He couldn't, but he was also completely powerless to change anything at this point. Stop your ship now, yelled some NetSec official over the comms. Can't, won't, answered Zoopik with a smile, as he realized that spite was everything he had left. He wanted to transmit another message as something hit the ship. The lights died, air movement stopped, and the gravity effect projectors died as well. He found himself in free fall, drifting towards the ceiling of the command center, where he managed to grab a hold. He had heard a thud, and then everything had died. As if the reactor had been ripped from the ship. He reoriented himself and crawled along the ceiling towards one of the emergency panels on the wall. It took a minute for the emergency reserve system to be fully initialized, but afterwards it showed him a complete loss of the reactor. Coolant had rapidly evacuated the pipes and starved the generators, which in turn was the reason the ship was now dead. The primary and emergency batteries had shorted out prior to that. As he was still trying to understand what had happened, he heard one of the doors opening and turned around. Two bipeds in foreign armored suits stood now in the command center. Zoopik, wir kommen von dem Allianz-Kurier Flussquell. Wir sind hier im Auftrag der Network Security, Sie zu verhaften. Ergeben Sie sich und leisten Sie keinen weiteren Widerstand, said one of the bipeds in a foreign language, and Zoopik realized, those must be humans. I don't understand human, he answered. Naja, Warn Versuch wert. Zoopik, we are from the Alliance courier vessel Flussquell. We are ordered by network security to take you into custody. Surrender and do not resist. He smiled again, thinking for a short moment that he could at least give it a good try at resisting arrest, but decided against it. His siblings were now out of harm's way, or had been caught as well. There was no more reason to continue fighting. You got me. I surrender and I will not resist. By the way, tell me, how much time do we have until the reactor cooks off? The reactor is gone. We shot it. What's left of it is now harmlessly burning out in space, the other human said. Zoopik was blown away by this. That must have been the thud he had noticed before the ship had died. Zoopik was brought onto the human vessel and back to the station. He found his siblings and Saarte in network custody. It turned out that his contacts had been compromised by NetSec, and the standby ship had been a NetSec vessel that had taken his siblings into custody. But none of that really mattered to him. He was still impressed by the human vessel's capabilities.